Hey, I'm Blair Best. It's Thursday here on The Story, and tonight, tempers flare inside Portland City Council chambers. Public testimony over a proposal to fine detention facilities like the ICE building turned into a shouting match, with security even stepping in. Plus, the main gas pipeline for the Pacific Northwest is shut down again, the second time in the past few months. What this means for those planning to fly for the holidays. But first, today I talked one-on-one with Democratic Washington Representative Marie Gluesenkamp Perez after she broke with her party voting in favor of the bill that reopened the government, and then went after a fellow House Democrat. It's our big story tonight. So Representative Marie Gluesenkamp Perez represents Washington's 3rd congressional district, which includes Clark County in southwest Washington, a purple district previously held by a Republican for more than a decade before she was elected 3 years ago. Now, sometimes referred to by her initials on Capitol Hill, MGP has shown a bit of purple in her politics. She was one of 6 Democratic members of Congress to break from the party and vote in favor of the Republican funding bill that ultimately reopened the government after the longest shutdown in U.S. history, ending the stalemate that hinged on health care costs. Today, I talked with her about why, and here's part of that conversation. You are among a handful of House Democrats to have voted in favor of the funding bill that reopened the government. What was behind your decision?
Watching my friends on food benefits struggling to feed their kids. Like this is not. It's discouraging to see human suffering confused with political leverage. We can't get so wrapped around the axle on who's winning the shutdown that we lose sight of who's losing, and it's the American people.
So we know the sticking point of the shutdown was over health care funding, specifically Affordable Care Act subsidies that are set to expire at the end of this year if Congress doesn't act. Do you see that financial assistance expiring, or do you believe there will be a vote on that as Republicans have promised?
What I've heard in discussions with, secondhand about conversations with insurance executives, they're going to raise premiums. And look, like insurance premiums go up 25% every year. That's one of the reasons that I'm hesitant to say that this is the thing that is worth shutting the government down.
How do you respond to critics who say by your voting in favor of the bill, you abandon the fight for affordable health care?
I was not here to, I don't view my job here as, winning a partisan argument. I view my job as fighting for the long view and the long work of Southwest Washington in its entirety. And that is, I think, a deeper loyalty than to just a partisan ideology.
Okay, so we know thousands of federal workers in Southwest Washington lost pay or faced uncertainty during the shutdown. What do you say to those who feel Congress, including your party, use them as political leverage?
I opposed the shutdown from the beginning. I think it's bad for national security, for our families. It just does not seem like the tool to pick up. And it concerns me that more and more frequently it feels like an acceptable tool to use to just burn things down.
Do you feel like you could have done more to maybe prevent this shutdown or reopen the government sooner?
That is the parliamentary procedure it is at the sole discretion of the Speaker to bring the House back into session. And that's another concern.
How did you think of how House leadership handled the shutdown?
I have concerns. I think that taking your ball and going home, I think an overemphasis on the political popularity and the polling and the idea of like who's to blame. Well, sure, you can do some tricks to try and make sure the other guy is carrying the blame, but ultimately, like, who's suffering and at whose expense?
What consequences should members of Congress face when government closures disrupt millions of lives?
Yeah, I'm on legislation that would say that members of Congress don't get paid. We have a penalization for not for a shutdown. I myself did not get paid during the shutdown.
So Representative Gluesenkamp Perez has found herself in the middle of yet another controversy in Congress, though you could argue this one was self-inflicted. On the day the government reopened, she took to the House floor to call for a formal reprimand of a fellow Democrat. She accused Representative Chuy Garcia of Illinois of coordinating his retirement to ensure his own chief of staff would be in line to win his congressional seat next year. She called the move election subversion. Let's listen.
Representative Garcia's actions are beneath the dignity of his office and incompatible with the spirit of the Constitution. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the House of Representatives disapproves of the behavior of the representative from Illinois, Mr. Garcia.
I want to ask you about your recent aim at a fellow Democrat that's causing some waves in D.C. So the same day as the shutdown, you announced on the House floor that you intend to force a vote to condemn Representative Garcia of Illinois. You've accused him of, quote, undermining the process of a free and fair election. Can you walk us through what happened and why you responded the way you did?
Yeah, so the current incumbent of a deep blue seat that is in Chicago, 3 days before the filing deadline, after he himself had filed and was the only Democrat in a deep blue primary election, helped collect almost 3,000 signatures for his chief of staff to also file. And after the filing deadline was over, he announced that his retirement, ensuring that his chief of staff would be the only candidate in the Democratic primary. And look, I think that Southwest Washington values are not just about timber and shellfish and sea lions. It's deeper than that. It's the belief that people have the right to choose their elected representatives. Americans bled and died for that right. And so that was the first day that we've been back in session following these shenanigans, and I felt a duty to be forthright.
I will say a Democrat going after another Democrat has become more rare in these partisan times. What has the reaction been like to this move?
It has not been fun, but it's worth it to me. It's not worth it to. I cannot lose myself or my integrity or misrepresent the values of my community here in DC. And I've seen the way this place can turn people into a frog and boil them alive, and it's not worth it.
Well, this week, the House voted in favor of her motion to publicly rebuke retiring Representative Garcia. It's more of a symbolic move with little actual consequences, apart from a sort of tarnish on the end of his 6+ years in Congress. But rare, as we mentioned, for a Democrat to make those kinds of waves within their own party. Okay, now it's your turn to weigh in. What do you think of the representative breaking party lines, voting in favor of the bill that reopened the government? And what do you think about her effort against a fellow Democrat? Email us at thestory@kgw.com or call and leave us a voicemail, 503-226-5090.
Comrades, lend me your voices. No lip service, no platitudes. Action, action, we want action!
This is an official warning that your conduct is now disrupting the meeting.
Well, things certainly got heated during last night's Portland City Council meeting over a proposal to charge detention facilities a fee if they disrupt neighborhoods in Portland, like the ICE building along the south waterfront. Security even ended up removing a few members of the public from council chambers. More on that in a minute. But this idea at the heart of all this came from Councilor Angelita Murillo, who represents District 3 in Southeast. I sat down with her before she introduced the ordinance.
This will mitigate some harm because if you are a landlord that's choosing to profit off of the expansion of detention facilities, then you are creating a unique harm in the community that has to be addressed. If they are going to be abusing their power and making sure that they are using as much tear gas as possible and that's impacting people, then their fee is going to be higher.
Okay, that money would go toward cleanup efforts, police overtime, even helping residents and businesses relocate, costs that typically fall on taxpayers. In the proposal, the ICE building is not named specifically, though it mentions the Portland Police has spent around $300,000 at or near a single detention facility this year. There are 3 buildings in Portland considered detention facilities. There they are. Under this proposed ordinance, the city would determine their impact on the neighborhood to come up with the fee amount. This idea was officially introduced during last night's council meeting. And there's been some confusion over whether the ordinance would apply to current facilities or just new contracts for detention facilities. Well, Councilor Murillo confirmed last night that it would apply to current operations, like the ICE building. And public testimony on the plan quickly turned into a shouting match.
We don't want fees levied at the ICE facility for the attacks on the community in the future because we don't want the building to be there at all in the future. By putting forth this ordinance,
Everybody to stay
you
quiet.
make it very clear that you plan to capitulate to allow the development of future detention facilities in Portland. Portland City Council serves the people, not the other way around.
We want ICE out of Portland entirely. Condemn the building! Woo! This makes it so that the only punishment for using chemical weapons or literally detaining people illegally is fines.
This is why we disrupt your meetings. As long as you show that you do not care about to listen to us about this crisis, nor about the crisis itself, you don't get to carry on business as usual.
We are not going to get through all the speakers if I have to remind folks for silent support after every speaker.
Your reminders are taking longer than the applause.
Yet,
You guys not paying attention to your community when they showed up.
I'm sorry, I can't see who is speaking right now, but
You draw the line at snapping, right? Like, come on, that's crazy.
people, if we can't be respectful to the speakers, please go right ahead. Can we please eject the individual screaming in the back of the room? Conduct is continuing to disrupt the meeting.
No collaboration, we all sweep the camp, right? You sweep the mutual aid, you sweep
Front row, and I'm going to ask that our team eject the person yelling in the front row from the meeting.
I'll go. Collaborator.
Okay, well, security removed at least 2 people from council chambers. More than 30 were there to testify. Many argue the proposal is pointless because it doesn't do enough to remove ICE from city limits, while others believe it's a step in the right direction.
I support the proposal to apply an ordinance fee to the McAdam facility and to all detention facilities, and I support that we need to do more in order to make sure this facility gets shut down.
Council, I urge you to vote yes on the impact fee to show that in Portland, unlike DC, accountability still matters. And to those who are singling out Councilor Murillo, shame. This is somebody who is doing more than almost anybody on council.
I need everyone
on
to
this
let
issue,
this speaker speak.
and is a champion for this cause.
Council did not vote on the ordinance last night. That's expected during a future meeting, and we'll keep you posted. But last night, City Council did vote to ban some computer software that some say drive up rent prices. The new ordinance prohibits property owners from using algorithms to set rent prices. Those programs collect data from other landlords in order to suggest pricing. Supporters say that threatens fair competition and artificially inflates rent.
Renters make up of about half of Portlanders. They deserve a city where housing is stable, affordable, and fair. As a teacher, I've seen students lose their homes mid-year, coworkers forced to leave Portland because they couldn't afford to live where they work. These disruptions hurt families, schools, and our whole entire community. This ordinance brings transparency and protections to our rental system.
Landlords who violate the rule could face up to $1,000 in city fines per violation. Any landlord or company that develops, owns, or otherwise provides a price-setting tool in Portland will also need to thoroughly document how it's being used to establish rent prices. Now, opponents of the idea, including real estate developers, say the software helps landlords stay on top of an increasingly competitive market and that it's not price fixing. Councilor Dan Ryan, who opposed the ordinance, said this is not the type of legislation that will fix the housing crisis.
Affordability is the big issue that everyone is paying attention to, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum. People want to see their government focus on economic relief. I want to focus our work on this council to bring that economic relief through workforce development efforts, more efficient and cost-effective services, and ensuring that our tax base is getting what they paid for. And since we are talking about housing affordability today, we know the way to less expensive housing, both rental and privately owned, is by increasing our housing production of all kinds.
Okay, the ordinance passed on an 8-2 vote with Ryan and Olivia Clark voting against it, and it takes effect in 90 days. And the vote by council last night came the same day Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield announced a $7 million settlement with the nation's largest landlord called Greystar, which was accused of using these types of tools to collude and raise rents. Oregon Senator Ron Wyden posted on social media this morning saying, "Glad the city of Portland acted to tackle rent fixing unfairly driving up housing prices, and glad AG Dan Rayfield is holding bad actors to account. I've been working at the federal level and just updated my bill to ban this awful practice nationally." Around a dozen congressional Democrats, including Wyden, reintroduced this bill this week, which would crack down on companies that use the software. It would also ban the practice of coordinating rental supply and prices among 2 or more property owners. Wyden writing, "Setting prices with an algorithm is no different from doing it over cigars and whiskey in a private club. These cartels are already being sued for violating antitrust laws, but I don't want there to be a sliver of doubt that fixing rents with an algorithm is legal." Okay, coming up next on the story, another outage for the main fuel pipeline that runs between Seattle and Portland, what the last outage did to gas prices, and why Washington's governor declared an emergency this time around. That's next when the story returns. If your gas tank is getting a little low, or if you have a flight out of Seattle in the coming days, listen up. Our region's primary fuel artery, the Olympic Pipeline, is shut down. And the company that runs it, BP, has not given a timeline on when it could be back up and running. The 400-mile pipeline carries gas, diesel, and jet fuel from refineries in Washington state right here to Portland. Oregon does not have any refineries, by the way. The pipeline was shut down last week due to a leak near Everett, Washington. Limited operations resumed this past Sunday, but yesterday, BP said the whole pipeline was shut down again as crews began excavating the line in the area for closer inspection. Okay, the last time the pipeline was shut down back in September, gas prices in Oregon and Washington soared. The Oregon average spiked more than 30 cents a gallon. And that's why if you're running on empty now, probably a good time to fill up. AAA told us today that wholesale fuel prices are actually a little lower compared to earlier this week, which is a good sign. Though they stress this is a very fluid situation, no pun intended. But the Oregon average for regular gas has already ticked up 3 cents a gallon since the pipeline outage was reported. Right now, the average here is $3.81 a gallon, the 5th highest in the country. Up in Washington, it's $4.18, making it the 3rd most expensive state for gas, behind only Hawaii and California, which is north of $4.60. Okay, compare that to the national average, $3.10 for a regular gallon of gas. And here's where SeaTac plays into this whole equation. The Olympic pipeline provides jet fuel to the airport. And just yesterday, Washington Governor Bob Ferguson declared an emergency due to the pipeline outage. His order waives certain regulations, freeing up some commercial deliveries of fuel to the airport. But Ferguson warned that if the pipeline is not restored by Saturday night, airport operations will be, quote, significantly affected. The airport has already made some changes as well, including telling inbound airlines to fuel planes to capacity before arriving in Seattle. We asked PDX if the pipeline outage is affecting flights here at home, and so far, it's not. Though it is worth noting, AAA tells us jet fuel gets to PDX in a variety of ways. That includes the Olympic pipeline, but also the Kinder Morgan pipeline from the south, by truck, and even the barge along the Columbia River. Well, Chief Meteorologist Matt Safino joins us now with a look at our forecast. And Matt, is there any snow in our future?
You know, I think there finally is.
Okay.
We're gonna have to be patient, and there's still some uncertainty as to how much will fall. But I mean, look, Timberline, the base is an inch. You can see there is snow on the upper slopes of the mountain, but not that much. So this was Timberline. Today, a beautiful day at Mount Hood, but again, we do need snow if we're going to get ski season going. So let's go through our snowfall forecast here. And this takes us through the week and into next weekend. And we will get snow Sunday night into Monday. This is by Tuesday morning, 6, 8, maybe 10 inches of snow in the northern Oregon Cascades. So there's a start, right? Then nothing really happening for a while until we get into Friday. We're still at that 6.8 inches by Friday. But from Friday through next weekend, Blair, then it piles up a bit better, 15 to 20 inches in the Oregon Cascades. So that's about half of what we need to really get ski season going. But at least we'd be going in the right direction.
Right.
Right?
We're on our way.
Getting closer to it. So what happens after that? Well, here's a look at the long-range outlook, the week 3-4 outlook, and this is valid from the last day of November until the 12th of December. And it doesn't show the best news, but it's also not the worst. It's more than likely above average precipitation in the northern Rockies. We in Oregon, where it's white, that means we have equal chances of having above or below average precipitation, which could be just fine. We could do just fine with that. Same thing with the temperatures. Looks like below average temperatures just to our north and east, and we have equal chances of being colder than normal or warmer than normal. So again, this isn't the worst news in the world in terms of getting snow in the Oregon Cascades. Outside right now it's 49, and the more immediate concern is fog. Humidity is at 80% already. It's going to go to 100%. Look at Salem. It's at 93%, 44 degrees. The temperatures are really dropping quickly, so expect thick fog in the morning hours. It'll lift and break up by late morning, and by afternoon we should have sunshine and get up to the low 50s again. Sunrise is now at 7:18, sunset at 4:34 as the days, of course, continue to get shorter. But today it was a warm one. We made 55. That's above average by about 3 degrees because it was cloudy last night, so it didn't get as cold. We're going to be about 10 degrees colder tomorrow morning compared to this morning. So again, a big difference with the clear sky that we have right now. And yes, there are clouds out there, but nothing really coming at us in terms of significant precipitation until we get into the weekend, like I said, Sunday night and then into Monday. So tonight, we'll see fog forming. We'll have fog in the morning. Then it gets sunny. We'll get up to about 52. 7-day forecast, fog to sun on Saturday, and then the high clouds come in. We get the rain on Sunday, and it's going to be a wet day. So, maybe do your early Thanksgiving. Too early for Thanksgiving cooking on Sunday? Probably.
Probably, I would think.
Probably. Yeah, nobody wants to wait. Nobody wants 4-day-old food, so that was a bad idea. Sudden showers on Monday. Tuesday looks dry, and then Wednesday, that's the getaway day for a lot of folks for the Thanksgiving holiday, and that looks rainy, but not snowy in the Cascades. And then on Thanksgiving Day itself, looks dry for Turkey Day until late Thursday night.
Okay, Matt, thanks so much.
You bet.
We're back right after this. Well, that is the end of our show, folks. Thanks so much for watching. The good stuff is coming your way next. And don't forget, everyone has a story to tell. If you ever miss an episode of The Story at 6:30, we re-air it at 8:30 and 10:30 on our TV app, KGW+, which you can download for free right now on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. In the meantime, have a great Thursday night. I'll see you right back here tomorrow night at 6:30.